It'll be 58 years in July that I've been fixing shoes. I put my first pair of heels on in 1960 when I was 6 years old. They stuck the old wooden Dr. Pepper crates. They stuck 2 of those crates on top of each other, and I climbed on them and put a pair of heels on a pair of cowboy boots. 1960. I had a normal life. The older I get, the more I realize what I had a very good raising. My parents were wonderful people, God-fearing Christians. My dad worked hard. My mother raised 9 kids. Can you believe that? Yes, I'm the 7th of 9 children. You know, I'm an amateur photographer. In the last 6 or 7 years, I've taken like 800,000 pictures. I didn't have my awakening until I was 48 years old. My 23-month-old granddaughter was beat to death by her daddy. He was a drug addict. And I have very good reason to hate drug addicts, but I hate the drug. I used to hate him. Probably the turning point in my life is when I finally forgave him. And it took me 5 years from the time my granddaughter died. 5 years later, I forgave him. He committed suicide a week after he murdered her. So I was hating a dead man for 5 years of my life, wondering, how crazy is that? But when I forgave him, I started getting better, and stumbled into a sober recovery meeting, and thought I was going to help him lead it. And basically, when I got there, I got out of denial and realized what a horrible mess I was in. After my granddaughter was murdered, her dad committed suicide. And like I said, I spent 5 years wanting to kill him, and he was already dead. But I spent 5 years of my life, basically, I'd go to work, I'd go home, and I'd drink till I passed out. And I did that every day. And I'm really not an alcoholic. I'm not one of our token drinking problem people. It was just something I did. The next year I had a brother die, and right after him another brother died. Both of them were in their early 50s. Both of them died of heart attacks. And then one of my best friends, best friend I probably ever had, died of early onset Alzheimer's. And between those 3, my brother, my best friend, and my other brother, there were 51, 52, and 53. That's pretty young. When you get older, you'll realize that's really young. After that, I had 3 daughters. My middle daughter was the mother of the child that was murdered. She fell apart from day one. She ended up in prison. And my wife and I, my marriage fell apart. My wife and I separated. She called me December 2006. I hadn't talked to her in a year. And she said she was sick. Well, in January, she found out that she was stage 4 non-small cell carcinoma, lung cancer. And it was way too far gone. We'd gotten my daughter out of prison to visit her and see her in January of 2007. So they got to spend some time together. And between then, she passed away in April of 2007. 3 weeks later, my daughter got killed in a car wreck. That was hard. That was pretty much the last straw for me. There wasn't much left of me. I was planning my suicide. A very dear friend of mine didn't know nothing about it, but she talked me into, instead of building a memorial garden for my granddaughter, and we built one out in my backyard with a whole bunch of different things on it. But that project kept me alive, and if that person hadn't shown up and stepped in right at that moment, it had probably never happened. Every time I've turned around through all the crises in my life, somebody always stepped in, and I began to look at them as people hosting angels, because normal people did abnormal things, or I think there's ordinary people do extraordinary things. And it always came back to me and during most of my crises, somebody always stepped up and did something. And then I talked to them about it later, and they never had a clue. They said, I didn't do anything. And, yeah, you saved my life. God has blessed me with being a magnet for good-hearted people. And I'm beginning to think not everybody has that blessing, because I've always got somebody that's always shown up at the most critical moment, and it always made things better. So I can't take the credit for being an overcomer, but I'm finally realizing where it comes from, and it comes from other people that really care.